Here's a story on how I quit my job without a backup plan. It was 2016, 2017. I was still at a job in the media space, and I went off to Europe with friends. It was an amazing trip. I went to Tomorrowland in Belgium, Amsterdam, Budapest, Prague, Romania, and overall I had a blast. However, when I came back, a lot of weird stuff started to happen. For example, when I was at my workplace, anytime my boss started to walk over to my desk, I would start to feel a sense of doom and gloom. Now, you might be wondering, did I have bad relations with my boss? And the answer is no. We actually were really, really cool and on really good terms. So I found that very puzzling. The climax of this situation happened when I was sitting on my couch in my apartment with my girlfriend, and I started to just feel like I wasn't able to breathe. And eventually, I started panicking to the point we had to go to the urgent care. The urgent care ran all their tests, and basically everything was normal. They said everything was fine. You are exhibiting signs of anxiety, though, and panic attacks. For me, when I heard that, I thought, whoa, I had no idea I was having panic attacks. I had no idea that I had this latent anxiety. And it all started to make sense. And initially, I was confused because I've been a pretty hardcore meditator at that point, basically, meditating every single day. But apparently, I still had some anxiety around my life situation. When I reflected on what was going on, ultimately, this is my conclusion. I felt trapped by my job. Even though I liked my boss, my coworkers, the work itself, I felt like I had to do this job to make money. I felt like I had to go into the office because this is before remote work was really even a thing. And I really wanted to travel. So going off to Europe was basically a trigger of me wanting to experience that freedom and flexibility. And then going back to the job was almost like, haha, you don't actually have this freedom and flexibility. So after a while, and after really weighing my options, and by that I mean barely weighing my options, I decided to quit my job, and I did not have a backup plan. I decided to then focus on my online business. I did that for close to 2 years, and after 2 years, things weren't going well. And I had an honest look at my business, my finances, and I found that I was 44K in debt. At that point in time, I told myself, there's no way it makes sense to continue doing what I'm doing right now, which is trying to make this business work. So I went back to a job and eventually paid off that debt in approximately 2 years. There's going to be a video that I'm going to link that's going to kind of show you how I paid off that debt. With all that being said, here's what I learned from the experience and what I wish I knew before I quit my job to start my business without a backup plan. The first thing I learned was how much of spending habits and money is based on human psychology. In my case, the reason why I got into debt is because my spending habits were the same, but the amount of money I earned was not the same. And I know a lot of people would say, like, why didn't you stop spending money? Because logically, you shouldn't be spending money that you don't have. And I 100% agree with that sentiment. However, when you're actually in that situation and you're dealing with your emotions and you don't want to go back to a job, this is where human emotions and psychology supersedes logic. So do know this. When you're going into building your online business and if you're quitting your job to build your business, do understand that your psychology may betray you. So make sure you safeguard against it, especially against cases where your psychology is in a space where you feel desperate, like you need to spend more money to actually make your business work. If it's not making sense financially, be very, very careful. The second thing that I learned and regret not doing is building up my side hustle on the side and then quitting when it made financial sense. This is actually the path and route I recommend for most people because this will really de-risk you building up your side hustle. Deciding to go all in into your side hustle and your business and quitting your day job, it's very, very, very risky. For me, I was happy to take that leap because I honestly was foolish. That was really what gave me confidence. But I will say this. If you keep your day job and build up your side hustle, you can quit when your side hustle does well enough for you to quit your day job, and you still have that job security in the meantime. Do not make the same mistake that I did. Oftentimes, if you have a good proof of concept or a good business, it's going to do well regardless of whether or not you quit your job. I really want to emphasize this learning and this option because I do not want you to get into debt trying to start your own business, because debt is a killer. It's a financial wealth killer. And for me, it took 2 years, and that was me aggressively paying off 44K in debt. Do not make the same mistakes that I did. The third thing that I learned and takeaway that I have is have a very clear, defined number as to when you'll go back and get a job. For me, when I was working on my business, I was honestly scared of looking at my net worth and my finances because I was doing poorly financially. This is not a good practice. You should know exactly how much money you have, how much runway and emergency fund that you have, and you should also know at what figure in your savings account or your checking account and or your net worth, if you hit that figure, you're going to go back and get a job. This is all very important because you have a real financial number to anchor against. For me, I did not have a number as to how much savings I would have left, how much checking account money I would have left before I went back to a real job. This is what really did me in because obviously, because I had no boundaries on myself in terms of a financial figure, I kept going, I kept spending more money, and I kept getting into more and more debt. So know this. How much money do you have? How much money do you have in your emergency fund? What constitutes you making enough money to continue working on your side hustle? At what point does it make sense for you to actually go back to a job? Know those specific figures and then track your finances and your net worth to see how you're doing. Have an objective view into your finances so you can make sure you don't fall into any financial pitfalls. If you want to quit your job, you got to really understand why do you want to quit your job? And is there a way for you to meet those needs without quitting your job? In my case, what I want to do was to travel. I want to feel free. This could have easily been solved by making a case for remote work for myself to my boss. Now, it's very possible my boss would not have allowed me to do my work remotely, but the point I'm trying to get to is those were my needs, remote work and traveling and freedom. And I could have done that with remote work, and I never really tried to make that case to my boss. So in your case, ask yourself, what is it that you're really going towards? Because we're all doing things, right? We all want to do X action, and we think it's going to give us a result that will lead to emotion. So really examine, what result do you want? What is the emotion that you think that result will bring you? Are you able to bring about that result and emotion without having to quit your job? Chances are it's very likely that you can do that. The next thing that I learned when I quit my job without a backup plan is do not make decisions in the heat of the moment. When I quit my job, it was wanting to be free and travel, but it was namely also in response to the panic attacks I was having. It was pretty understandable though, because I felt like if I change my environment, I won't keep having these panic attacks. However, I will admit when I quit my job, it really was just basically a knee-jerk emotional reaction. And there might have been a way to actually set up a more favorable work arrangement where I didn't feel as stressed out and as trapped. So I would say anytime you make a decision just in general in life, not even with starting a business and quitting your job, make sure it comes from a place of not fear, but love and abundance. It should also come from a place of you having weighed the pros and cons of your decision very clearly. It's always good to do things and make a decision from a clear mind and from a place that is grounded. If it's coming from a place that's very unstable, very much based in fear, there's a very high chance that you're making the wrong choice. The next thing that I learned is be aware of survivorship bias. Oftentimes when it comes to business building, you're going to see people say, it's only when I quit my job, I burned the boats, and that's when I was successful because I decided to be successful. This type of thinking is actually incredibly dangerous because it illustrates survivorship bias. Oftentimes, if you're looking to quit your job and start your own side business, whatever it may be, you might look to examples of people who have done it, and they might say, hey, only when I quit my job did I actually start to, fly and soar and build my business. But this is a prime example of survivorship bias, and let me read you the definition from Wikipedia of survivorship bias. Survivorship bias is a logical error of concentrating on entities that passed the selection process while overlooking those that did not. So what I'm trying to say is anytime you see someone say like the reason why I'm successful is because I quit my job, I had no backup plan, I had to make it. You're looking at people who did quit their job and have made it, but they are the survivors. The reality of most businesses is that they fail. Most people that tried to build a business, they most likely failed, and they have to do it multiple times. The people that are failing are not going to be proclaiming, hey, just so you know, I was so happy I quit my job and I started my own business and I failed. You should be aware of this. So when you fixate on people that survived and also say like, hey, the reason why I built a successful business is because I quit my job, take it with a grain of salt, because when it also comes to business building, there are a lot of factors that go into making a successful business. It comes down to, do you have good luck? Do you have good timing? Do you have a good product? Do you have product market fit? Is your marketing good? Do you have a good sales team? Whatever it may be, right? The components of business building is very multivariate. If you're fixating on, oh, I think that quitting my job is going to be the X factor in terms of starting my business successfully, chances are it's not going to be the game changer that you really think it's going to be. Beware of survivorship bias, because just taking that at face value as to what people say as a reason as to why a business is successful is very dangerous, it's very faulty, and could get you into a lot of trouble. The last thing that I learned, and also last takeaway I want to give you all, is know that going back to a job does not mean that you're a failure. When it comes to the internet and entrepreneurship, oftentimes people will say, like, I would rather die than work a 9 to 5 again. There's a lot of things that are glamorized about entrepreneurship. I understand why, but I do want to say it's very unfair and unnecessary to stigmatize going back to a full-time job. In my case, going back to a full-time job was necessary. It gave me consistent income. I was able to actually advance my career and actually advance my overall net worth and financial situation. So for me, going back to a job was a good thing. Also, I learned a lot of new skills. I was able to contribute to a company, all that good stuff, etc. So do know that you are not a failure if you go back to a full-time job. A job is not a bad thing. In fact, going back to a job could be a good way of you to learn new skills, to build up your financial reserves, to also try again with your side hustles. Do not make the mistake of putting yourself down because you're going back to a full-time job. There are worse things in life, trust me. So there you guys have it. What I wish I knew and what I learned from quitting my job without a backup plan. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, comment below. I'll see you guys next time.